listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellen Flukiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, welcome to the show today. We're going to do something different today. And, I don't know, different. I'm going to talk, right? And so maybe that isn't that much different. But here's something that's going on that I've mentioned a little bit in my life. Now, you see this up here, Ultimate Life Uni. I'm creating a university, absolutely a university, and it's going to have 4 schools in it. And I mentioned those last week. And in the process of creation, I'm thinking about, a logo and emblem and words and, that kind of stuff. And maybe I'll use Latin or Greek or something, or maybe I'll just use English. But anyway, what's fun about this is as I thought about what's useful, some examples of things came to mind, and I'll give you one today. I had a call this morning with a coaching client who, it was only the second call I've had with this person. And they're eager and looking to change some aspect of their lives, which is what personal coaching is about. I don't do athletic coaching. I do mindset work and helping people change how they relate to the world and create success in whatever area they're working on. But anyway, we were talking about certain things, and he stopped me and he said, and like I said, this was only the second call, and he said, I've never had a conversation like this in my life with anybody about these things. And it wasn't like the magic dark arts or something. It wasn't like that. But we talked about it a little bit, and he was right. The keys to changing our circumstances in life are not taught anywhere. Like we go to school and we learn history, and the version of history is changing all the time, but hey, we learn math, we learn reading, we learn civics or government, some, it depends on schools and so forth. We learn read and write and arithmetic, that kind of stuff. And we don't learn the kinds of skills. I certainly didn't. And I know there's some life skills classes in some high schools today, but he just commented to me, he said, I've never even had these kind of conversations with anyone. I've never heard these, never been taught this before or anything. And so it was just really stuck with me about the lack of good education. And I'm taking a hardcore slamming swipe at the education system. And all you have to do is look at the stats to know it's abysmal. Some low percentage can read and do math and all that kind of stuff. And today isn't the day to rag on the teachers or teachers' unions or governments or anything else. But my point is, even teaching the limited stuff that they teach, they're not doing a good job at all. And I just had a conversation with one of my sons a few days ago where he said, he's moving completely to homeschooling because, in his words, I'm just tired. I just can't put up with this crap anymore that they do in school. So there's that. Whether or not they're teaching the right things. But the real observation here is that there is nowhere to actually learn how to be a human. There's no human class. Like, how do we get along? How do we create powerful relationships? I have a course that I have not yet built yet that I thought of when I first started my coaching business 15 years ago. I thought of several models of things that I could do, and one of them was BPR, build powerful relationships. And I've integrated many of the things that I would have put into that, but I've never built that entirely as a framework. But as I coached this fellow this morning on some things that were really important to him that had to do with his own performance and who he was being in the world and so forth, it was just obvious that there's so much need for that. So in the context of the university, I was thinking, okay, the last thing in the world I want to do is build a lookalike. I don't want to build something that's like anything else. Why would I do that? We already have X, so I'm not going to build X. If I'm going to do this, it's going to be something completely different, something not available anywhere else. Otherwise, why would I do this? So that's the foundation. And we talked a little bit last week about the curricula in the 4 schools. And I'll mention those briefly during this conversation, but I'm not going to give any detail If you want that, go listen to last week's. But what I am going to talk about is what I thought is, what are the foundation things? What are we trying to do in this container? And so the first, there's 4 E's that are going to be the foundation, and somehow I'm going to weave them into a logo, 4 E's and a phoenix, and it's going to be cool, and I'll share it with you when I have it. But the first thing I want to say is why this matters. We have a sucky education system. The most important things we ever learn are in the school of hard knocks, the school of life. And people say that all the time, the University of Adversity and the School of Hard Knocks and that sort of thing. And there are some things, most things, that we can only learn in that school. We can talk about them, but talking about them, it's like this. If someone tried to describe to you what it's like to put your hand on a hot stove and burn it, where you touch it and it instantly blisters. Someone tried to describe that to you in words, it would be like trying to describe the taste of salt. You just can't do it. We don't have ability to do that. I have a little bit quasi-tragic funny experience to talk about that. My uncle has had a dairy farm, and he's now long since retired, and they don't run that anymore. But when I was a kid, we used to go to a place in Wyoming called Star Valley, and it's right along the Wyoming-Idaho border, and it's a gorgeous place. It looks kind of like Switzerland with mountains and beautiful, and it's flippin' freezing cold in the winter. And yeah, I live in freezing cold in Edmonton, but whatever. So we used to go every summer up there to that place to haul, he's a dairy farm, so he hauled hay, alfalfa. He grew alfalfa for his stock and barley and that sort of thing. And he had a couple of big granaries and a hay shed, to haul the alfalfa and have food for the winter. So, because in the winter, snow covered everything. They couldn't just feed up in the pasture. He's got a big farm, like I said, and pastures. So anyway, I used to go up there, and that was a place of learning, a place of having experiences that I couldn't get anywhere else, and it was wonderful. And why this whole thing matters is, if I'm going to spend time, or if you spend time doing a project or building a product or service, it needs to be unique. It needs to be powerful. It needs to be a full reflection of you. So as I thought about the first word is education. Now that's university, education. Okay. Well, these 4 words exist for much more, my nose itches, deep and powerful reason. That is, these are not slogans. Okay. They're engines. They're engines for real transformation. Because as I've learned, gone through, and you've heard lots of my story over the years on this show and on the podcast, Your Ultimate Life is the name of my podcast, which is on all the channels. And I've had lots of interesting guests there and here. You've heard my own stories of struggle and of failures and, exploding situations and then real transformation and sometimes divine interventions. But my question to myself about the university is, what kind of education is going to be different and valuable? What is going to matter so that it is completely different? So that it isn't something, we all know the famous kind of saying, well, I went to school and I haven't ever used one single thing I learned in school. Well, what a tragedy, right? You went to school for umpteen years, 12 or 16 or 20, depending on how many advanced degrees you went and got, and you use none of it or very little of it. What is the point? Well, school teaches you how to think. Not really. It ought to. But so that was, education is the first hallmark, because I couldn't let it lose sight of creating a new awareness, learning things that matter. So that's how I'm defining education. Now, I've framed this whole thing right now up to now in the context of the university, Ultimate Life University. Ultimate Life University that I'm building. But I want to say to you, this is for you. These 4 principles, these 4 words that I'm going to give you are the framework to build your ultimate life. The Ultimate Life University is a place where you can go and get specialized help and instruction and powerful things you can't get anywhere else in the world. Nowhere in the world are those things. The curriculum, the books, the learnings, and the things are unique to that place. So the definition or meaning of education is something to learn that you need, that matters. Not just things that don't matter, facts or figures or algebra formulas or whatever, but things that actually matter. So my commitment in the school is to do that. And I want you to think about your life, because the point of today's episode isn't for you to listen to me just talk about university. It's to share with you the discovery that I made of 4 words that will be the pillars for the uni, but also can be the pillars for your ultimate life, your life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Now, I challenge you right now to think about something. Are you living the life you love right now? You wouldn't change a thing. You love storming out of bed every day and diving into the day. I know that's true for me. Guess what? I woke up 5 minutes before my alarm this morning, 4:55. I usually get up at 5. And I'm excited. I sat up and I'm start thinking about how excited I am for talking to you tonight and for other people that I've spent today talking to and classes that I've spent teaching and all kinds of stuff. And I wake up every day feeling like that, loving it. That's why I call it the ultimate life: purpose, prosperity, and joy. And the first E, education, right? The first E is education. And I find myself drawn to books, to programs, not because I feel deficient, but because I love to grow. I love the work of growth. Now, I have a friend who's recently participated for the first time, maybe in his life, and he's middle-aged, 40-something, I think. He's participated for the first time in his life in a bodybuilding contest. Now, he's a big dude. He's a big dude, and he was already very muscular, but he's done all that work, to trim the fat and be really cut, and has done that work. And he shared lots of social posts along the way, and he said, a million times I wanted to quit and how hard it was and everything. And then right after this first competition, which was a week or 2 ago, he said, I thought maybe I'd only ever do one of these, but I'm going to do it again. And so the payoff for the education that he needed to get where he was going was super valuable. So education, meaning information that you need to know about, stuff you need to know how to do or how to think or how to look or how to build. Education is important, it's valuable, and you need to choose it wisely because we don't have a ton of time, right? Mostly our lives are full. They're busy. We don't spend a ton of time counting the dots on ceiling tiles with our feet up. The days are full, and that's good. So education is the first E, and the 4 are education, empowerment, encouragement, and execution. So we'll talk about why they matter. And in my 40 years of coaching, leadership, and transformation, whether it was in corporate, whether it was with technical things like electricity deregulation, or whether it's helping people write books or anything, here's what I know. People don't fail generally from lack of desire. They want stuff, like you want stuff. Maybe you want more freedom. Maybe you want more time. Maybe you want better health. Maybe you want more money. Maybe you want a better relationship. Right now, say out loud 2 things that you want. Say it out loud. Now, if you say it out loud and you say it several times, it wakes up a desire in you. Yeah, I want that. Whoa, I wish I could have that. Unless you've already given up and you've relegated it to the, it would sure be nice if I could have. I'm not talking about that crap. So there's things that you want. And if you don't get it, it isn't going to be because you didn't want it, but it is going to be a breakdown in one of these 4 things. Education can also be described as knowing what to do. Empowerment can be described also as believing that you can do it. encouragement is like, how do I keep going when I want to quit? Like my friend, he had a personal trainer and he had some pillars around him that he could lean on when he didn't want to go do the work that day. And the fourth one is execution, how to make it real in the world. One of those four things is usually what breaks down when we don't get what we want. So I want you to think about this, because this will help you build the life you want. This is real life stuff. Now, we're December here, and in a few weeks it's going to be New Year's, and my New Year starts in October, but most people starts in January, and some people set goals or resolutions or whatever, and some people on purpose don't, because they go, I never keep them anyway, they suck, they're stupid. Well, then what? You never accomplish the goals you want? You're willing to give up and just live whatever life throws at you? Why would you do that? Right? So let's assume, I'm going to assume in our convo, you want some stuff. And I want to talk about each one of these four things. And yeah, it's in the context of what's going to be provided in the university, but it's also in the context of I want you to identify in your life where you need one of these E's and how it will support you to have more fun, to make more money, to be more excited about how you get up every day. So the first pillar is education. And one way to think of that is you can't change what you don't understand. I'll give you an example. So we had a family, a Ukrainian family living with us for 3.5 years, a mother and daughter that are refugees from the war, and we love them and they're dear to us. And about a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago now, 1st of October, they finally moved out into an apartment on their own, 10, 15 minutes away. And they're still over here a lot, and it's good, but that was intentional so they can get their permanent resident card and all that jazz. Now, a couple of days ago, a bubble started appearing on the wall in one of the bedrooms of the apartment. And it was, you could feel it was damp. So we knew something was leaking behind the wall. Well, last night, it got worse and the bubble spread, and then there was something leaking out of the ceiling. And so, they came over to spend the night here and called the building owner and said, hey, da-da-da. But she and me neither. I went over there and looked at it. I cannot change what I don't understand. I don't know what's leaking. Probably some plumbing, either in the ceiling, leaking down the wall, or in the wall between apartments. I don't know how it's built. I don't understand that. Now, my son, on the other hand, he spent 3 or 4 years redoing building sheaths in condos and apartments. So he could walk in there and look at that and say it's there and it's over here and this is what's leaking. But I don't have those chops, and it's not my son's building, so he's not going to do that. Besides, he doesn't live here in Edmonton anyway. So if I were to want to change that, I would need some education, some plumbing education, some education about how buildings like those apartments, 4 or 5 stories high with a whole bunch of them on the floor, how are they usually put together? Where do they put pipes? I don't know that stuff. So if I were going to do something about that, I'd need a bunch of education in order to find out where to start looking. So it is the first step because it kills confusion. So if you want to create your ultimate life, identify right now, what is it that you don't know how to do that you think you need to know how to do? You don't know how to make more money. You don't know how to be happy. You don't know how to manage your emotions. That was kind of what we were talking about with the new client this morning. He said, I've never talked about these things before. You don't know how to manage that. You don't know how to create safety in a relationship so you can have disagreements without fighting. So the first thing is education. And the coaching call this morning was, hey, you could look at it like this. You could ask these kinds of questions. And it's like, wow. And so that was education, learning a way to think about it, like me finding out where plumbing would be in a building like that. In a university, my university, the education is going to mean frameworks and principles and skill building, some foundation stuff. If you want to create your ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy, and every time I say those words, I invite you to substitute the words for you. So if someone asks you, 3 words that meant the life of your dreams. Some people say freedom. Some people say rich as anything. Rich as, Elon Musk or Bill Gates or something. Warren Buffett. What are the 3 words that describe your ultimate life, like my purpose, prosperity, and joy? And then you ask, well, what do I not know? What do I not know about those things that I've described as part of my ultimate life? So for me, purpose, prosperity, and joy, I could say, I don't know how to find my purpose. Now, I do, and I've created a method, and I can help you do that. If you're wondering how to find your purpose, that thing that just motivates the crap out of you, get a hold of me. Kellen Flukiger Media. Use the contact form. Let's talk, because I can help you do that. But anyway, I might not know how to do that. So that would be a place to look for education. Now, knowledge is not enough. It's just step 1, which is why there's 4 E's. But it is essential, right? I have to have the knowledge that's essential to do it. Now, right now, today, we are buried with crap. 24-hour news cycles and everybody trying to tell you how to think and who to vote for and what to love and what to hate and what to buy and everything else. That's information overload. I'm not suggesting you go out and buy a bunch of books, just read. There's a thing called precision learning, identifying exactly what you need to know. That's one of the things I love most of all about coaching. Is it's a joy for me to help someone go from a state of confusion, like, I don't know what I don't know. I just don't know how to do this, and I don't even know where to start. Okay, well, let's figure that out and get some precision learning done so that you have exactly what you need to get this done. Exactly what you need to get started. Helping somebody right this minute. I was writing a proposal right now for someone about their business. And we talked about learning, precision learning. These are the very specific things. Okay, so that's education. Learning what you don't know, specifically and with precision, so you can get where you're trying to go. Money, joy, happiness, health, wealth, whatever it is. Ultimate life. And I talk about that every week, and you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but here's the fun thing. You can have it today. And if you give up on it, yeah, your call. But it's there. It's yours for the taking. Okay, pillar number 2 is empowerment. So sometimes we know something, but we don't feel like we have authority or permission to go do something about it. Now, I have a client right now who's writing a book who said in the company she worked for, she had lots of ideas about what ought to change or what kind of improvements they could make, but it wasn't set up so she could do that. She didn't feel empowered, and that's a buzzword these days, but she didn't feel like it was her place or her calling or opportunity, or that she'd get chewed out or boss would get mad. That whole set of things, right? I'm going to get in trouble if I speak up here. Okay, empowerment means now I have some knowledge and I have both permission and courage to talk about it, to do something, to experiment, to suggest. Now, in the personal development world, often we feel disempowered because of old stories. Maybe you've been told you're not good enough or you'll never amount to anything, or, that whole list of things that everybody has, either a little or a lot. And so you can feel disempowered because no one ever asked your opinion, or you never had a chance to lead, or you never were able to successfully bring forward an idea and have people try it, or you never had permission to try it yourself, right? So that can be disempowering. And I want you to know knowledge without your personal worth is dead, right? And by personal worth, I mean you know that you are valuable. You have permission to try, permission to fail, permission to grow, right? Permission. Go do that. Think back about some things maybe you learned as a kid. Learned how to ride a bike, and I don't know what your experience was with learning that or learning how to do something. But if you were in a nurturing environment where Someone was showing you, well, try this. Go ahead and try it on your own. And if you failed, it was no big deal. Let's just take it apart and do it again. That is empowerment. That creates empowerment. So in the university context, empowerment means getting rid of those stories that say, I can't, I'm not good enough, who would believe me? Why should I write a book or create a program? What have I got to offer? Who am I to have an opinion? Nobody would care what I have to sell or to say. I'm not that interesting. All of those things are disempowering beliefs that, bang us down, get back in your hole, dummy. And those are disempowering. And so empowerment means identifying that those things are just lies. Identifying that it's baloney. It's not true. Those are old stories, and we all have them. It starts in the cradle. Shut up. Quit crying. You're not, you're never going to amount to anything. Why does your homework suck? Why did you get a bad grade? Why can't you get along with your brother or your sister? And on and on and on. We start there, and then friends who betray us. Well, they were my friend last week, and now they won't talk to me. The betrayal, the difficulties of circumstance, all of those sing another chorus of the song, you suck, you're not good enough. And empowerment means getting rid of that music and replacing it with a true melody. The true melody is you're divine, you're capable, you're going to fail, you're going to fall on your face. It's got nothing to do with your worth. It's just got to do with that failed. And so get up and do it again and have fun. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it again. Get up and try again, right? Failing is not in never falling, but in failing to get up. You don't fail till you quit trying, right? All right, good. So empowerment is that thing. And the language of empowerment is actually really important. I don't know. I wonder. I probably can't. What will they think? All of that is the language of disempowerment. Language of empowerment is I can, I am, I choose, I create, and living in that truth. That's why one of the things that I have talked about many times is a book that I have. I was going to pull it up. Living with Purpose and Power is a whole course on how to get that kind of language, the language of empowerment, to resonate with you all the time. It's not like a jacket or makeup that you put on. It's the truth. It's the truth of your being. Okay? So the coaching words are breaking limiting beliefs, changing your self-worth from worthless to superwoman or Superman or whatever, because that's the truth. Owning your divinity, turning off the internal sabotage and all those stories. So that's part of empowerment. The third, one more thing about empowerment. I've talked about a word, WIPOS, WIPOS, is a framework. And that's one of the foundational things at the university where we teach empowerment. And that stands for worth, identity, possibility, ownership, and sovereignty. So that empowerment is critical. You need it. I need it. And it's critical to get to your ultimate life. All right, so let's go to the third pillar. The third pillar is encouragement. Now, I get a friend, and I've said this before, who posts repeatedly, people need encouragement more than they need advice, and I love that. It's a great saying. Encouragement is it's like air. We need it. Without it, we're going to die. Hope is the biggest motivator in the world. As long as we have hope about the possibility for an outcome. Now, I'm not talking about hope, meaning we sit around on our butts and we hope the weather's better tomorrow. I can't do anything about it and hope that. I hope they change the tax laws so I don't have to pay so much. I hope I don't get caught cheating on my taxes. I'm not talking about any of that kind of garbage. That's not hope. Hope is a visceral feeling of expecting that there is really a possibility that you can win or create or build or succeed. Okay, so when you go to do something and you attack that thing with real hope, not this forlorn give up hope, but real hope, your chances of success go way, way up. There's something about that emotion, that intention. And so encouragement is another thing that I dearly love about this show, about my podcast, about being in the coaching business, about helping people write books, is I love waking up your hope. Your hope that you really are as good as I say you could be, or as God says you are, and getting rid of the language that someone may have instilled in you that you don't amount to much, or that you don't have many gifts or talents, or that you don't have an important thing to say. That's the opposite of hope. Encouragement keeps you moving. Everybody gets stuck, right? I'm thinking of a funny example. When I lived in Calgary, I used to drive up nearly every weekend in the wintertime to Sunshine. And Sunshine is it's a beautiful ski resort up on the road in between Banff and Lake Louise. If you know anything about Alberta, it's right by Banff, and it's a gorgeous. And it's a ski resort that gets so much snow they don't even have any snowmaking machines. It snows early, it snows a lot, and the snow stays around a long time. So they don't have any snowmaking machines there, and it's fabulous. And I used to have season passes there, and so I'd go nearly every weekend. But anyway, one day I went, and I was driving away at the end of the day, and I realized I'd forgotten something. And I don't, at this time, remember what I forgot, but I needed to turn around. So I had a Hummer, an H2, and I drove off the road into the hill. It had snow all over it. I was going to back up and turn around. What I didn't know is that the snow had camouflaged the terrain. So when I drove off the road up the side, a little ways up the side of the hill to turn around, I got stuck. And boy, I'll tell you, dead of winter, gets dark at 4:00, and the lifts close at 3:30. So it's maybe 4:00, and it's getting dusky already, and it's dark at maybe 4:30. And so I had about 15 minutes of light left. And there for a minute, I'm like, okay, I think I could be stuck here. And I was trying to figure out what to do. Now, I felt alone. I felt discouraged, right? And I was starting to get worried. I had no momentum, and I had no way to get it. And, the Hummer's 4-wheel drive and everything else. So I could have just sat there, but instead, nobody came to rescue me. And that isn't the point of this. I created hope by saying, it can't be that hard. I watched the tires. I looked at where they were and where the snow was and all the rest. And I picked up a whole bunch of dead branches and crammed it into the tires and gradually worked my way out of it. But point is, I only took that action because I had hope. Hope is the mother of action. Hope is the mother of possibility. Hope is the creator of a way forward. Right? And so because I had hope, necessity was the mother of invention at that too. Cold, getting dark on a very small winding road up to the resort. And I had been kind of late to leave, so there weren't a lot of cars driving by. In fact, I don't remember any. And I was partly stupid. I was partly embarrassed, thinking, I hope nobody sees I'm stuck. But on the other hand, I'm like, maybe somebody could help me. Anyway, bottom line is I had hope. I encouraged myself by taking action. E and encouragement is the third pillar. Education, empowerment, and encouragement. Now, how do you feel when you're trying to do something and it isn't going very well, and someone comes and just says, you know what? I believe in you. I believe you can do that. It changes the game. We look for new possibilities. We lift up our hearts. We lift up our chins. We lift up our eyes, and we create more power. So encouragement, whether I'm building curriculum in the university or you and I were building that ultimate life, that is so necessary. And one of the things that's most fun about coaching for me is I get to be the source of all these. I get to be the source of education. I get to be the source of empowerment. I get to be the source of encouragement. And you know what that also teaches me? It reinforces a truth that I learned when I died. And that is, you and me were divine beings, and we were built to love and serve each other. That's why we're here. That's why I tell you all the time that I love you. That's why I say if there's something I can do to serve you or help you, I want to know. I can't do anything if you don't tell me. So we quit when we feel alone, like I did on that road. I felt discouraged. Frankly, I was a bit panicked. And I had no way, I was trying to rock out and all the things. Encouragement comes from lots of ways. It comes from community. It comes from friends. It comes from mentors. That's one of the reasons I love being a mentor and a coach. Sometimes it comes from accountability. I led a class this morning, and there was a fellow on there that we were talking about a particular topic, and I asked everybody on there, I think there were about a dozen or so, and I said, maybe more than that, 14, 15, doesn't matter. I asked for commitments from people to do something different because the class was about growth. Everything I teach is about growth in some way. And so one of the fellows raised his hand and says, well, I'm going to do this week. And when he got done talking, I said, okay, cool. So will you come on next week and tell us what you did and how it worked? And he smiled because he kind of knew I was going to do that. And he said, now I have to do it. Accountability. Because the last thing he wanted to do was either cut class or show up next week and say, oh, yeah, I didn't. All of those things are ways we can provide encouragement for each other. One of the other powerful ways, the last one I want to talk about today, is something that is so helpful and beautiful is to call out someone's greatness. Call out someone's greatness. One of the most fun things as a coach is for me to look in your eyes and tell you how great you are and mean it with all my heart. People change. Their posture moves. They feel seen, acknowledged, hopeful. Yeah, maybe I can. That kind of feeling. So I would encourage you to do that. Here I am encouraging you. Education, empowerment, encouragement. The last E is execution. Because dreams are cheap. We all know that. Dreams are cheap. Execution is everything. It doesn't matter how much I promise myself. It doesn't matter how I yell at the sky and thump my fist. If I don't go get shit done, I have nothing. I am nothing. I created nothing. I'm a vacuous dreamer that wastes hot air. And that's kind of a harsh description, but that's the truth. One of the books I wrote because of this is called The Results Equation. Now, if you want the best book on the planet about how to make your dreams come true, get The Results Equation. From Dream to Done in 5 Simple Steps. The Results Equation. It's on Amazon. And it will show you exactly the process to accomplish any goal. I don't care what it is. Because the steps of execution are the same. I don't care what the goal is. The activities are different. If I'm painting the fence in the yard, it's different than if I'm knitting a sweater or something. But the steps to get a goal accomplished are exactly the same. So execution is one of the huge places where people fail. All 4 of these E's are big, pinch points when it comes to people creating their ultimate life and creating their dreams. But execution is where the rubber meets the road. Why do we quit? Well, it was harder than we thought. Someone starts seeing us and laughing and saying, you can't do that. Who are you to think you could build this or do that or write a book? Or who are you to think that? And the answer is you're a divine being and you can do it because you said so. But those are the kinds of things or stories in our own mind. I did this before. I tried this before and I failed. How many times have you heard someone say, I've been on a diet 250 times and every time I failed? And they build a story of repeated failure. I never set goals anymore because I used to set New Year's resolutions and I never did them. So then they become, You or I, we become what we declare. I'm a failure. Execution is the antidote, always. Now, we've been taught big, hairy goals, BHAGs, big, hairy-ass goals, right? You don't have to do that. And in fact, in many ways, it's damaging because what's more important is the little phrase, I said it, I did it. So start with smaller goals, smaller commitments, right? Just tiny ones that you know for sure you can keep. Because I can promise you from experience, my own experience, and with hundreds of clients over the years, it's way easy to increase the size of your goals. It's way harder to keep failing with a big goal and keep momentum. You just want to flip and give up because you fail every time. So shrink the goal. Shrink the goal until you know that I'm going to do what I said. Holy crap, I did it. I did it. I said it. I did it. When you have that energy of success and excitement in your heart, you're going to win. You are going to win. Because it's, like I said, you can increase the goals and you will do that. So here's what execution is. Execution has several steps. First, planning. We've all done this. Well, I'm going to clean the garage this weekend, yeah. And we don't make any plans, so we don't do it. Yeah, I'll take care of that, and we don't book time or we don't get the education or knowledge we need, so we don't do it. So planning is important first. The next thing you need is a commitment, a promise to yourself. The sentence I use is do what by when. Do what by when. Now we're talking. Do what? Completely described. I will have the room painted by Thursday night. Okay. That's a do what by when. Then the next thing is discipline. And people have, some people, maybe not you, but some people have an aversion to that word, discipline. Ooh, like it's some kind of an evil word. Discipline is nothing. It's just reminding yourself what's important. If you say you want to save $1,000 or $10,000 this year, next year, or in 3 months or whatever, and then when you have a choice to spend or to save, just remind yourself what's important. One of the ways, there was a time in my life when I needed to lose a lot of weight. I was like 80 pounds overweight in my late 30s, and I needed to lose that because I didn't want to be that way. And what I had to ask myself, the question that I used is, when I go to bed, what am I going to wish I had done right this minute? And that was when I was choosing about, whether to have this or that for food. And invariably, all the time, I knew that when I went to bed, I was going to wish I had resisted whatever it was, extra helpings or more dessert or whatever. So that question for me made all the difference. It created some discipline. Another thing that is really useful for execution is to create habits, and those are created a little at a time. All a habit is a repeated action over and over again. And if you try to change too much at once, you're going to blow it. So do little changes. They're easy, they're fast, they're fun, and success breeds success. Another thing that I use in the book Results Equation is something called relentless execution. And that feels like taskmasters flogging us all day, and that's not what it is. And so what I challenge you to do, you'll be really surprised what relentless execution actually means. So get the book, Results Equation, and read it. One way to think about it is just choosing not to give up. Because I don't know about you, but most of the time when I try something, it doesn't go exactly like I want it to. And it rarely goes way better than I thought sometimes, but not all the time. So it is a conscious choice to say, I don't care what the outcome is. I'm going to keep trying till I get there. I'm going to keep going, try a different way. I'm going to keep going until I get there, wherever there is. That's relentless execution. Now, in the university context, as well as creating your ultimate life, we have to have some kind of metrics. Like if someone says, I want to make more money. Okay, here's a quarter, you're done. Well, the metric is, no, I want to have $1 million in my bank account that is unencumbered, meaning nobody has claim on it. And I want to have that by the end of 2026. Okay, that's a do what by when clear goal. And you know what that metric is. And then you can say, okay, now that I know what the goal is, what are the actions most likely to lead there? And the goal can be anything you want. I picked $1 million just because it came out of my head. But it can be anything. It can be a relationship change. It can be an opinion of yourself. I have a client right now that we were talking about an exercise that I have people do about loving themselves. I challenge you to do this. Look in the mirror deeply in your own eyes and say, I love you to yourself, and do it for 5 whole minutes, like 50 times. Some people find that easy, but most find it difficult, awkward, squirmy, some downright revolting. But when you do it, your self-worth is going to change. Your accountability is going to change. Your encouragement from inside is going to change. And your empowerment is going to change. Those are promises, because I've worked them myself and worked them with hundreds of other people. And you can't tell me they don't work till you try them anyway. So here's the thing I want you to think about. The 4 things together: education, meaning learning what you need to know; empowerment, meaning knowing that you have authority and power to do a thing; encouragement is a place of power when you get stuck or discouraged; and execution is creating the habits that let you keep going when you fall down. Now, I've got books about all those things. I'm not going to hold them up, but I'm going to tell you the names. One is The Results Equation. One is called Living with Purpose and Power. Those 2 books, if you read them and follow, do what's in there, they'll create for you any desire that you want. You'll have the tools right there in your hand. Now, these 4 things form a complete framework that will help you or me get anything we want. Okay? And you have to have them all. Most programs only focus on 1, maybe 2. So education, you learn a thing, right? Okay, there's this motivational speaker over here about empowerment or encouragement. Or there's this accountability coach that does, accountability and discipline and that sort of stuff. Alone, they're not enough. So if you want to create your ultimate life, and I know you do or you wouldn't be here, ask yourself these questions. What education do you not have? What do you not know right now that you need to know? And then go find out. Talk to me if you want, but talk to somebody. Information's free. You can find out how to do anything. The second thing is empowerment, and that is a feeling in us that we're worthy and we're capable. That's mindset stuff. And if you can't do that by yourself, get a hold of a coach. I can talk to you. You can use whoever. But that is internal work. In encouragement, that's something we have to create around us. If you live with a bunch of naysayers, change your friends. Change your relationship. Find some people that believe in you, that love you, that are encouraging you, and get with them. And the last thing is execution. If you don't have the kind of discipline it takes to create results, then change that. All of that's in your hands. And the books that I mentioned, The Results Equation and Living with Purpose and Power, will help you, I promise. And if you can't remember the names, just look my name up on Amazon. So here's your call to action, as it were. Don't stay where you are unless you're just deliriously happy. If you love your life right now, I have a different invite. Reach out at KellenFlukigerMedia.com. Use the contact form because I'd like to talk to you. I love hearing the stories of people who've made these choices and chosen to grow. Okay? Now think about those 4 words: education, empowerment, encouragement, and execution, so that you can build yourself the tools and the framework to get anything you want. You deserve it, and you can have it. And the only thing standing in the way of you or me is our own thoughts, our own willingness to act or not. As far as the Ultimate Life Uni is concerned, sorry, it's over here. Keep lifting the wrong hand. Ultimate Life Uni is concerned, that's our focus, is to provide not just the education, but also the empowerment, encouragement, and execution systems so you can create anything you want. Business, cash, relationship joy, happiness for no flippin' reason, just because. Those things are all available to you right now. Learn what to do. Step into your power. That's a cliche thing, but you have power. The third thing is create a method to stay encouraged and then do the work, take the steps that are required. If you do that, nothing will get in the way of you creating your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellen Flukiger, only on LA Talk Radio.